Nebraska football has to win big or Scott Frost will go home. And in my opinion, Nebraska is going to win big, and Scott Frost will be staying around for 2023 and in the near future. And I'm going to give you 10 reasons why. Before we get into it, if you're a Nebraska fan or just a college football fan, I encourage you to hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and comment your record prediction for Nebraska down in the comments section below. And also very important, hit the like button. Please like this video, subscribe, comment your thoughts down below, and hit the notification bell so you can get notified when I post new content or go live. But I have 10 reasons, my own opinion, as to why Nebraska is going to win the West, why they're going to do well. And each point on its own doesn't say much, but all of them combined together, I think builds a strong, although it is just a prediction, it builds a strong argument for why Nebraska can and will win the West in 2022. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. The games play out themselves, and I am by no means an insider on Nebraska football. But this is just my prediction and the reasons that I think back it up. Number 1, Nebraska has their easiest schedule since 2016. In 2021, Nebraska faced 8 teams with 9 wins or more. 4 of those teams, I believe, finished in the top 10. Oklahoma might have finished just outside, but from what I can remember, they finished in the top 10. You play Oklahoma again, and you play Michigan again, but you don't play Michigan State or Ohio State. You play at Michigan, but you host Oklahoma. And the West Division 2, and we'll get to this a little later, I think is more wide open than people think. Nebraska opens up against Northwestern in Dublin, Ireland. And although Pat Fitzgerald has surprised us before, I think NIL and the transfer portal are killing Northwestern football, and I don't think this team is going to be any good. North Dakota and Georgia Southern, which are the next games on September 3rd and 10th respectively, should be marked easily as wins. The Oklahoma game is the first true test. It's a home game. Oklahoma, I think, even though I still have them in the top 10, they're going to be pretty similar to what they were this past season. There's a greater chance that they're going to be slightly worse. It's also a slightly bolder prediction of mine that I think Oklahoma's just going to perform like they didn't really miss much of anything. Little prediction of mine. But I think that this game Nebraska will likely be favored in or just a slight underdog. They then have a bye the 24th. They host Indiana the 1st, play at Rutgers the 7th. Neither of those teams are probably going to go bowling. If one of them is, it's going to be Rutgers, and I don't see them getting 8 or 9 wins. At Purdue is the first test in conference, first major test. If you don't pass the Northwestern test, unless Northwestern goes on to become a really good team, then I really don't know what to tell you. At Purdue, October 15th, another bye the 22nd. Nebraska then hosts Illinois before going on a tough November slate, hosting Minnesota, playing at Michigan, hosting Wisconsin, and playing at Iowa. You play less teams who are likely going to be good. I'd say that you play 6 teams in Illinois, Indiana, Rutgers, Georgia Southern, North Dakota State, and Northwestern. You play 6 teams, and that's including an FCS team, that can likely have losing records in their schedule. Not even kidding you. 6 wins, I would say, is the minimum of what Nebraska should achieve. Obviously, they can achieve lower, but just looking at a schedule standpoint, I see it minimum, factoring out past bad experiences. 6-6, I'd say 7-5 or 8-4 should be what's minimum accepted, just with how easy the schedule is. I think it's easier. It's the easiest schedule in the Scott Frost era. And speaking of Scott Frost, he's in year 5. He's 15-29 at Nebraska. And you might be thinking that that means he's guaranteed to fail. But what this also means is because he's on the hot seat, he's going to be playing for his job. And you've already seen this in the hirings this offseason. You've seen it when he fired many offensive guys and coaches that were his friends, actually, and had a personal relationship with them. He fired them. He brought in Mark Whipple. He brought in Mickey Joseph. He brought in Donovan Raiola. And he brought in a much better running backs coach. And his players, too, are also going to play for him harder because just from what I've heard about him, watched in some of his interviews, some player interviews, his players like him. And I think that his players, his current roster, and even his past rosters want Nebraska and want him to succeed. The Nebraska faithful want him to succeed. So he's going to get resources. He's going to get extra effort likely from his players. And he himself is going to give extra effort. And normally when coaches are on the line and they're playing for their jobs, they either implode or they rise to the occasion. And if you think that all they do is implode, look at Jim Harbaugh and my Michigan Wolverines this past season. When he was on the hot seat, job was on the line, he rose to the occasion. 2022 provides a more realistic path to Indy, probably the most realistic in the Scott Frost era. 2019, the team was still young, was overrated. 2020, no one gave them a shot. Same with 2021, though more expected them to go bowling than have the losing record they had. But whatever. This year, it's very realistic. You beat Northwestern August 27th in Dublin, Ireland. You can beat Indiana, you can beat Illinois, you can probably beat Rutgers, depending on how you beat Northwestern. But it's the opening game. There's room for some mistakes as long as there's a victory. But that right there, I'd say if you beat Northwestern the way that I think you will, then right out of the gate, you can tell that this team can probably win 4 conference games. And just looking at the conference slate, you have Northwestern, Indiana, Rutgers, Purdue, Illinois, Minnesota, at Michigan, Wisconsin, Iowa. That is not, if you just factor out Michigan, that's not a very challenging slate, if I'm being honest, with what this team has assembled, the coaching staff, other things we'll get into later. But Indiana, Northwestern, Rutgers, and Illinois, 4 out of your 9 conference opponents that you're playing, 4 of them, those 4 teams will probably have losing records. Purdue, I think, will be an 8-9 win team. Minnesota, same. Wisconsin will be a 7 or 8 win team. Same thing with Iowa. Michigan will be by far your toughest game. But the West is so much more wide open than people think. And factor out Michigan. I would say factor out Michigan. Because Michigan, it's never okay to just say, oh, we can totally lose this game. It's not the mentality you should have. But if you lose to Michigan and beat every other Big Ten opponent, you've won the West. Outright. So Michigan, your toughest game is not even in your own division. At Iowa is always going to be tough because they're a rival and they have had Nebraska's number for the past few years. But you host Wisconsin, you host Minnesota, you've been able to win at Purdue in the past. This conference slate provides a very realistic path to Indianapolis. Point number 4, your staff is too good to not win some big games, to not beat some good teams. You have Mark Whipple, the guy who developed Kenny Pickett, and he handpicked the quarterbacks that came through the transfer portal. He looked at every quarterback that was available that Nebraska could realistically get, and he picked the ones that fit his proven system. So that should be enough for the staff portion, but I'm going to go further. Mickey Joseph, guy came over from LSU. He's an elite recruiter. He brought return specialist Trey Palmer with him, elite recruiter, great developer. He's been at LSU from 2017 to 2021. So he oversaw Justin Jefferson, and he oversaw some of the great offenses, specifically the 2019 offense, where they had amazing wide receivers, really great passing game. He coached those wide receivers, and now he's here at Nebraska as the passing game coordinator and associate head coach. Donovan Raiola came from the NFL, where there you coach talent that Nebraska's not seen in their O-line in ages. Pure NFL talent. And he's coming here to instill some of those NFL schemes and other things he's learned in the NFL into the college level. The staff, and that's just offensively, is the offensive staff is too good to not improve this offense. And the defensive staff is proven as well. Eric Chenander, he's improved, and we'll get to this later statistically, he's improved the defense every year he's been here. And now they don't return as much production as they did this past season, but they return a good amount of production. There's some issues at depth at D-line, but the defense looks to possibly have another year where they can improve. The staff, forget Scott Frost, the staff is just too good to not beat some good teams. Number 5, remember every incoming transfer's name. Whether it's Hunter Anthony, whether it's Anthony Grant, whether it's Casey Thompson, whether it's Chubba Purdy, whether it's Trey Palmer, whether it's Isaiah Garcia Castaneda. Might have butchered that name again, but whatever. Whoever it is, remember their name. Because even if they don't play, whether it's due to injury or the fact that they're not good at other players, whether they're just further down the depth chart, they are likely they're helping rebuild the culture, which I think is an important aspect for Nebraska to win this year, is building a culture that has more confidence, has more accountability, and strives to win rather than being used to lose. Hunter Anthony is coming from Oklahoma State, who's had a lot more success than Nebraska. Trey Palmer is coming from a team who won a national title 2 years ago. Same with Coach Mickey Joseph. Whether it's the coaches, incoming transfers, they're either coming from other schools to have a better opportunity at Nebraska, which provides some motivation, or they're coming from winning schools to get another chance. Regardless, it's likely going to help with the culture. It also helps with depth, helps with experience, because these guys have played, they've started, or they've had playing time at the schools they're coming from. It just helps all around. Point number 6. Every year under Frost, the team has improved. In 2018, they had the 58th scoring offense and the 88th scoring defense. In 2019, they had the 72nd scoring offense, a bite with a harder schedule, but their defense improved, 66th in the country. In 2020, their offense slid again. It was 102nd in the nation. Their defense was 64th. But they played an all Big Ten schedule. There were no cupcake teams to beat up upon. And it was COVID, so every team was weird. You looked at the film, you watched how Nebraska played, they were better in 2020 or similar, but especially on defense, they were better than they were in 2019 if you look at the film and some other statistics outside of scoring offense and defense. In 2021, the team had the 71st scoring offense, but the 36th scoring defense. So Nebraska hasn't reached the same scoring offensive potential they had in 2018. Granted, their schedule in 2018 was easier than a lot of other schedules they've had, but their defense went from 88th to now 36th. So their defense has basically been improving every year, scoring-wise, statistic-wise, on-field play and film-wise. Their offense took a huge step forward in 2021 compared to previous years, and it was one of the more explosive offenses in the country. The teams are slowly taking steps forward, and at some point, if Frost is the guy for Nebraska, and if he is a decent to good coach, the way this team has been improving, they will eventually break out. And what do you need to break out? You need good skill position players, of which Nebraska overall, not in most individual categories, but overall, I think they have the best skill position group in the Big Ten West, and that's even including Purdue. Most of that's due to the fact that Anthony Grant, Ramir Johnson, Jack Wezziant, Nebraska's running back room is actually pretty deep. Tight ends, they're proven at developing. They're bringing in better wide receiver talent. They have a better wide receivers coach. And Casey Thompson exists as well. And if not for his broken thumb, he might have been one of the better quarterbacks in the nation this past season. He put up impressive offensive statistics At Texas, even with that broken thumb, he didn't have a defense either, so he had a lot of pressure on him to make big plays and such. He's coming to a school in Nebraska that will probably have a better defense than Texas will. I imagine there's going to be less pressure on him individually in that regard with the better defense, which will result in less forcing plays. And with a healthy thumb, who knows, maybe he could be the best quarterback in the Big Ten West, even though for now I think Aiden O'Connell is still better. Nebraska's wide receiver core is also in the top half of the West. Every skill position that Nebraska has, every one of them is in the top half of the conference, and that's hard to find for every other team. Iowa and Wisconsin have some of the worst quarterbacks in the conference. Purdue, they don't have great running games. They just don't. They lost a lot of their wide receiver core, even though I think they'll reload there. Illinois and Northwestern, they're going through tough rebuilding years. Minnesota's quarterback is probably middle of the road. Same with their wide receivers and tight ends, but their running backs are really good. Same with their O-line, even though they lose a lot of starters there. The amount of talent coming in through the portal, some even from high school, and a lot of returning starters from this past season, combining all of that together, I do think that Nebraska, they have the best skill position group overall. Probably should have put that in this slide, but still, best skill players includes all skill players. I think overall they do have the best skill position group in the West. Speaking of another thing they're best in, I think they have the best linebacker core in the West. Now, they lost JoJo Domann, which hurts. They lose him. But they return Nick Henrich, Luke Reimer, and some classify Garrett Nelson as an outside linebacker, even though he's listed as a defensive end, edge rusher. He's really an edge rusher, but still some classify him as a linebacker. Their linebacker room, very deep, very well coached. They were the do-everything guys this past season. That's what they were. I mean, JoJo Domann, Luke Reimer, Nick Henrich, Garrett Nelson, Caleb Tanner. This linebacker room, whether you include the ends or not, is probably the best in the conference. And if not, then it's second or third to Michigan State and Wisconsin, who have very good linebacker rooms. The linebacker core it's amazing. And it's going to have to live up to what I think it will do. And it might even have to be better because of some of the issues at D-line and a lot of the leaving production and leaving talent in the secondary. But this linebacker core is great. And when you have a good linebacker core and a solid overall defense where the linebacker core doesn't have to do everything for you, it helps, as does having a good position anywhere on the field. Having some of the best skill position players in the West and then having the best linebacker core in the conference. Name other teams in the West whose linebacker cores outside of Wisconsin and maybe Iowa even compare to Nebraska's with what they have returning and such. I think they have the best linebacker core in the conference. They have overall the best skill position players and offensive staff in the West too. A lot of their questions revolve around their special teams, their O-line, and their D-line. Their secondary group is proven, and their coach is proven despite some losing production. Point number 8. Special teams has received major upgrades. Not even kidding. Nebraska finally has. They did not have this past season, but they finally have their own special teams coach. It's unbelievable. They finally have it. Don't know why they didn't have it before, but here we are. And they also brought in a kicker and a punter from the transfer portal. And they looked good. You saw the punter in the spring game. You didn't exactly see the kicker, but he looked better than the previous punter who has now left the program. Their names, I'm just bringing up their names here from the portal. You have Brian Buschini, and you have Timmy Bleekrode. And I think Bleekrode or Buschini, one of them was of their group. Bleekrode's a kicker, but also punted at Furman. Buschini was from Montana. I think Buschini might have won the punter of the year, or Bleekrode won the kicker of the year. They're versatile. Bleak Road especially because he can punt and kick. So in case Buschini somehow doesn't work out or gets injured, you can have Bleak Road both kick and punt. And Bleak Road he did much better at Furman than compared to Chase Contreras and Connor Culp. So special teams has received an upgrade. I anticipate with some of the upgrades at offensive line and Trey Palmer being there as probably the team's return specialist, that you'll have better punt and kick returns, and you'll just have a better O-line that can minimize what happened at Iowa, where the punt was blocked and then the whole game fell apart from there. But special teams has received major upgrades. Out of everything improving, I'm most confident about Nebraska's special teams improving. And think about 2021. Imagine if that punt against Michigan State went the way it was supposed to go. Imagine if against Ohio State, maybe the 10-yard punt they had turned into a 40-yard punt, among other things. And you can go even further than that. Ohio State, imagine if Chase Contreras made both of those field goals instead of going, I think, 1 of 3. Nebraska might have been able to drive down, have more confidence, and tie the game to go into overtime with some momentum. You can't overlook these things, the little things. And special teams is so overlooked. It's viewed as little. It's big. And I'm very confident Nebraska will have a better special teams unit. So confident that I think they'll be in the top half of the conference. They'll be in the top half and ahead of some other teams with solid special teams units in the Big Ten. And finally, and this is probably the most mute point of them all, but it's relevant. I really don't care if I'm being honest. I think it's worth being in here. Nebraska cannot, and they will not fail forever. This can't continue for another century unless the world ends, which is totally possible. But I'm being real. Nebraska's a blue blood program. They've had success before. Despite it being several years since they've won a conference title or national title, they have a sense of what success is. They're the only major sports team in their state, especially in football. I don't think Creighton has a football program. They have a basketball program. And Lincoln, Nebraska, what is there to do outside of football for the main thing? Not much. So they have support, they have resources, they have tradition, they have history. Trev Alberts, who played on winning teams and seems to care more about the program than previous ADs, is back as well. This team can't fail forever. That's more of the cherry on top. The other reasons, again, are much better, more logical, more evidence-based, but the last one has a point to it. Can't fail forever. You can't have losing seasons forever at a place like Nebraska. It's like with Texas. Even in my Texas video, when I said that they won't be back this season, they're not going to be that way forever. They'll come back at some point. I bet you some people thought USC would never be back, and they just hired Lincoln Riley, who, even if you think is overrated, even if you're like me, who doesn't agree with that crowd but thinks that he struggles defensively, he's going to succeed there. 99 out of 100 timelines. He is going to succeed at USC. And Tennessee looks like they're trending up too. So at these winning programs, and Nebraska's one of them, they're a top 10 program all time, probably even higher than that. You cannot and will not fail forever. Those are my 10 reasons as to why Nebraska will win the West. And if they don't, they'll at least get 9 wins, I think, or maybe even 10. They just lose to someone who somehow gets 11 wins or goes undefeated in the West, which has happened before with Wisconsin in 2017 and Iowa in 2015. But I think the win total will improve by a lot of wins. It'll be more than just 3. Nebraska will be more than a team who just gets to a bowl game. They'll get to a decent non-New Year's Six bowl game, possibly even a New Year's Six bowl game if they do what I think they do and win the West and reach Indy. Those are my 10 reasons. If you like this video, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, comment your prediction for Nebraska football this season down below, and click that notification bell. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Just want to thank you guys because we just reached 3,800 subscribers. And I'll be doing a giveaway at, I think, 5,000. There will be more details on that the minute I cross 4,000 subscribers. So thank you guys again. I love you guys, and I'll see you around. Bye.